Welcome back. We are going to be going to Hatay in Turkey shortly, where our reporter Ahmed Kajee is with search and rescue teams from the South African-based organization The Gift of the Givers. The death toll from Monday's earthquakes is now over 21,000 people, and the focus is on turning to search and rescue operations. Of course, those blasts did hit both Turkey and Syria, and South African volunteers are amongst global efforts to try and help the people of those regions deal with the aftermath. We're going to go to Ahmed Kajee now, if we do indeed have him on the line. Ahmed, tell us what is the latest and how things are going with the teams there with you on the ground in Turkey.
Thank you very much, Erin. We are still in the Hatay area of Turkey. That's about 2,000 kilometers southwest of Istanbul. We had flown here overnight and then made a drive down as well. It took us, as we had mentioned, to cover 200 kilometers, an 8-hour drive yesterday. But what you're seeing behind me is a 9-story building which has completely pancaked onto itself. That's the terminology the emergency services use. It's simply stated that each floor collapses in on itself, and in essence collapses down onto the people as well. Because the earthquake struck at around 4:15 in the morning on a Monday, many people would have been asleep, and it could have been even before the morning prayers in and around the area due to it being winter and the morning prayers being a bit later. Everyone would have been asleep in this building, and unfortunately we are expecting a lot of casualties from this particular building. What is taking place right now is the rescue officials have specific equipment which can detect sounds, which can detect impulses, and to the extent even a heartbeat of survivors in this building. And it seems that they happen to have found either a survivor or even perhaps identified a few bodies which can be recovered as well. And that is what the officials are doing right there. Unfortunately, we as media cannot make our way up there to get closer visuals, as that entire structure is unstable and could collapse at any point in time. And I think that just goes to show the importance of having search and rescue and search and recovery officials such as this one coming out in their numbers to assist in some way or form to bring this community some sort of closure and to assist them in the way that they are, putting their lives at risk. Ordinary South Africans, ordinary rescue workers from across the world coming out to make sure that they can at least help the people of Turkey in some way or form. As you say, there's 21,000 and more death tolls coming through, unfortunately, between Turkey and Syria. And apart from the operations taking place over here, the big political story coming out is those sanctions being placed out in Syria, unfortunately reducing the aid going through to those countries. I'm sure that those conversations will be taking place on an international scale at the United Nations, at least at the United Nations level as well. But away from the political aspect over here, down on the ground, it's just every person trying to help another person. That sense of humanity is exceptionally close, to the extent where local Turkish residents have come from far out. We spoke to a gentleman earlier on. He drove from Antalya, which is around 600 kilometers, all the way down here to just serve some soup and some water actually at the fuel station. I'm just going to ask my colleague Maxwell to just turn around and maybe just take you through what is taking place. This little soup kitchen, makeshift soup kitchen, is what they have actually put down for the community members of here to come through and just get a small meal, a bit of a warm meal, get some hydration, and more or less try to get through one more meal and one more night. Many of the residents are coming out here just asking for the basics, just a tent for themselves to sleep in, and not just for themselves and their wives, but more for their children. You see 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old children completely dejected, completely heartbroken at what has taken place. And that's just the fact, taking into consideration that they may not have a home to stay, may not have a shelter over their head, not even taking into consideration the trauma that they would have went through on Monday morning with the world shattering around them, and also taking into consideration that they would have lost loved ones, whether it be parents, siblings, friends, cousins. There's all of those contexts and different situations to take into consideration. So the rescue workers over here are trying to assist in whatever way they can, but the cost of what we are going to see from the tens of thousands who have died, the hundreds of thousands who would have been injured, and the millions who would have been displaced been affected by this particular disaster, that 7.7 and 7.6 magnitude earthquake. It's going to be an uphill battle for the people of Turkey, the people of Syria, and their respective governments. Aaron.
Ahmed, certainly something with ongoing ramifications, the ripple effects, as it were, continuing into months, if not years, when it comes to rebuilding after all of this. And, of course, that 21,000-odd death toll as things stand each day. The probability of finding survivors, I suppose, diminishes. Friday, of course, is a day of prayer for many in places around Turkey and Syria. Has it been safe for people to go to mosque? Is there a sense that people need to be avoiding certain buildings because their structural integrity is in jeopardy after those 7-point-odd quakes on Monday?
Yes, so unfortunately, almost all the buildings in and around the region where we are have been compromised. Their structural integrity is compromised completely. Unfortunately, some people are still staying in their homes because they just have no other place to go. That's just the risk that they are taking, that at any point in time the building or the home could collapse. But unfortunately, because they have no other place to stay, or because their loved ones would be trapped underneath the rubble, in the surrounding buildings, they are staying on site. In terms of the Islamic Muslim prayers which take place on a Friday, that does not necessarily need to take place in a structured mosque. It can be taken place and performed out in the open. So many of the residents over here carried out their prayers out in the open. To an extent, even the rescue workers back at base camp at the Hatay Stadium, they carried out their prayers this morning. And will do so out there, outside, in the parking lots or in the open fields or wherever they can. That's one of the things with the Islamic culture is, the Islamic religion rather, is that a designated place of worship isn't necessarily required. As long as you have the numbers, you can perform your ablution facilities, your ablution rituals rather, prayers can take place. So on that front, Friday prayers would have continued with a major disruption, of course, given the circumstances. But on that particular front, people are going through for their daily prayers, their 5 daily prayers, and obviously the Friday being a bit more important. That seems to be continuing, obviously, in some sort of disruption. But obviously, we're in a situation there where the norm isn't yet. Aaron.
Ahmed, it's good to see you bundled up on the ground there with the Gift of the Givers team along with Maxwell. Do stay safe on the ground, and we will continue to check in with you as South Africans contribute to what is a global humanitarian effort following those deadly quakes on Monday.